Okay, hello everybody. Welcome to Korean Atlanta Mentorship. So it is almost midnight, and we're going to go ahead and study um, debt payoff as a night owl. Is that what the definition of night owl? Someone who studies at midnight? I have no clue. But let's go ahead and study velocity banking at this time. So you might be asking if you've randomly clicked on this video, have no idea what velocity banking is. What is it? All it is a debt payoff strategy using lines of credit as your main tool, right? And we're going to go over um, how to pay off debt for somebody who lives in a lower cost of living area. And I know what some of you are thinking, like you might have seen the housing prices and rental prices explode in your area. But did you know there are some areas in the country where housing is still affordable, right? In fact, if I go in here, Danville, Illinois, the home of cheap housing, you could see houses here are going for pretty cheap. I mean, three bed, one bath for $78,000. This one is a three bed, two bath for 120, 152, 187, about $100,000. Ooh, that looks nice. $80,000 for a two bed, one bath, 87. So again, there are some areas in the country where this is doable, and maybe you work at home and you want an internet. If you have an internet connection, then why not live in one of these places? Unless for some reason you don't want to live here. I mean, look at this house. This house looks pretty nice. 175,000 for a three bed, 1.5 bath, and look at that 7,000 square foot lot. I could play golf in that lot if I did play golf. All right, so let's go back here. And so here's really what we need for velocity banking. What's the difference between velocity banking and the average American? It's not about the amount of income that you make. So we always assume that we make the same income, right? And here's a crazy thing, and this is hard for most people to accept, even my mom. I told her, hey, I don't have any savings. And she's like, what? No savings. You got to have 3 months worth of savings. And it's like she listens to Dave Ramsey, but she doesn't because she doesn't listen to English programming. But that's kind of like what would come out of Dave Ramsey's mouth because we're going to use lines of credit as our main tool. So here's the thing if you want to do velocity banking, number one, you need a budget, which we have, right? Income, expenses. You got to list all your debts because the whole point of this is to remove our debts, right? The more debts we pay off, the more cash flow we have. We have three credit cards, a student loan, an auto loan, and we got a 100K mortgage. Let's assume that we live in Danville, Illinois, right? Danville, Illinois, the home of cheap housing. Again, this is where my real estate mentor teacher has most of his houses and is really rich. Has over an interest in like 300 house. Ooh, look at this one. Six bed for 407. This must be a. Ooh, but it has winter weather. I don't like that. But maybe because I'm a good old California boy. All right, so let me go ahead and exit this right here. Okay. And then, so now this is what we're going to do. Now we have to select our line of credit as our main operating account. Okay. Now let's just assume, okay, that we have access to something called a $20,000 home equity line of credit. And if you don't know what it is, think of it as like a credit card based on the value of your home. So we'll say it's a 15% interest rate and month zero. And now some of you out there are complaining like, oh, it's not realistic. It's not realistic. Again, here's the thing about credit in general. If you're struggling financially, no bank is going to give you credit because banks only lend money to people who don't need, or they only lend money to people who don't need the money, right? And this is how, once I understood that I don't get credit when I need it, I get it when I don't need it. That's why I have over $258,000 in lines of credit today, right? But a lot of people, they want to, wait till the last minute to do it and then go on the struggle bus and then get credit. And here's the thing, I don't mean to seem to be harsh, but you got to learn how the system works, right? So let's just assume that we got this credit before we needed it, okay? $20,000. All right. So now we're going to just do a few re-engineering of our finances, right? So let's go ahead and copy this number and copy these numbers. And let's do this, okay? So this is the crazy part. Let's go ahead and decrease our expenses without making more money and without changing our lifestyle. Okay? So we have these three credit cards here, And the total of these credit cards is 13,000. Okay. So what if we move this 13,000? Again, we're simply doing a debt transfer and making our line of credit as our main operating account, not our checking account. So the average American, the checking account is the main operating account, and for the Velocity Banker, it's the line of credit while we're in debt payoff mode. When we're not in debt payoff mode, we paid off our debt, then yes, our checking account would be our main operating account. Okay, so now let's go. Since we moved this, guess what? 0, 0, 0. So is that amazing that our expenses have magically decreased from 3,200 to 2,800? Now what we're going to do is actually talk about the strategy. So we're going to put our entire paycheck into that line of credit, take our expenses out, and after every month, the balance is going to go down by what we call our cash flow. So the cash flow is not our savings, but it's just our income minus our expenses, and we're not going to have any savings. And as you can see, we magically increased this from 720 to 1,174, right? Amazing, okay? So now this is what we're going to do. What we're going to do is just calculate the next month's balance, right? So it's just the previous month's balance plus 1. And then, I'm sorry, the next month, which is the previous month plus 1. The next month's balance is the previous month's balance plus the previous month's interest minus our cash flow right here. So our cash flow is 1174.36. And then what we're going to do is take the average daily balance because that's how the interest is calculated. So if we take the average of these two numbers, that's going to give us an estimate of the average daily balance. Multiply it by the interest rate, which is actually usually with the home equity line of credit, the interest is 10%. I got to change that. So 10, and then you divide by 12 to get the monthly interest rate. So let me go ahead and change that to 10%. Okay, so now what we're going to do is now we're just going to copy paste these formulas, copy paste, and see when it goes to 0. Okay, and as you can see here, it took us about 12 months to pay all of this off. Paid all of this off in 12 months. Excellent. So about a year to pay off, let's see, $13,000 in debt. So 13K, so we'll say 12 months, 13K of debt, right? All right, so now we got to focus on either the student loan, auto loan, or the mortgage. In my experience, the mortgage is pretty much last. So how do we know which one to figure out to pay off first? There's two ways. So we have the traditional debt payoff criteria where we look for debts that have the lowest balance, highest interest rate, or highest payment, or fit as much of these three categories as possible, or we could use a cash flow index. I generally like to tend towards the cash flow index because it's a little bit straightforward with the formula, where this is a little bit more subjective. And the cash flow index ignores the interest rate. So what we got to do is find out after 12 months what the balance of the student loans are. So we go ahead here and we'll go ahead and do that. So let's go ahead and figure it all out. So we go back and forth. So 30,000, 4.5%. So 30,000, 4.5%. And how many years is that? That student loan is 10 years. Okay. And now after 1 year, the balance will be 27,000. Okay. So 27,000, right? So let's just check. Yep, 27,000. Okay. And then the auto loan here is 22,000, 5%. So 22,000 at 5% for 5 years. Okay. And then this is going to be, what's it going to be after 1 year? 18 grand. Okay. Okay, so let's calculate the cash flow index. So the cash flow index is the statement balance divided by the monthly payment. So let's go ahead and calculate that. So this is going to be equal to 27569.29 divided by 310.92. And then this one is going to be 18027.78 divided by 415.17. And as you can see here, this one has a much lower cash flow index, and you could kind of think of this as a ranking system. So the lower the number, that's the one you want to pay off first. Because think about this: would you pay $18,000 to get $415 back, or $27,000 to get 310 back, right? So you would probably pay this off first because you're getting more bang for your buck, right? 18,000 for 415 or 27,000 for 310. So even though we don't fit everything into the line of credit, what we can do is essentially what we call an incremental payoff and just move, portions of the auto loan into kind of like around the size of our paycheck. Okay, so let's say we go from 1,800 or 18,000 and move $4,000 of this 18,000 to our line of credit, and then just keep repeating the process, right? So let me just do this. Okay, so here let's move 4,000. Okay, and you can see it takes us about 1, 2, 3, 4, about 4 months to pay off that 4,000, right? And so it's just kind of doing the same thing over and over again, rinse and repeat. Now, luckily, we have a velocity banking calculator for this to kind of figure this all out for us because the calculation when it comes to an amortized loan that has a lower interest rate but a higher balance is a little bit tricky. But luckily, we have this provided by Renatus. And Renatus is where I originally first learned velocity banking from in 2017. Believe it or not, I paid 2 grand to learn about not only velocity banking but other real estate investing foundations, which is how I got my first rental property. So it was a good deal to learn all of this stuff because velocity banking is just one of the tools in the toolbox that we have. It's not like a panacea for everything, but I think most people don't realize that there is a life after velocity banking of paying off your debt, right? All right, so let's go here and just fill in the information. So the original balance is 22,000. The current balance, and here's the thing: I always love to say that I actually make commission from selling their educational products. I don't know why I love to say that, but I just do as an independent contractor market. Okay, now let's go ahead and do this here. 18027.78, right? The interest rate is 5%. Okay. Term is 5 years, and the payment amount is 415.17. 415.17. All right. So, how much is their salary? It is $4,000. And the monthly income is $4,000. And the living expenses, everything except for what you're trying to pay off. So, it's these three right here. And I really wonder if this 1,500 a month figure would be realistic because I wonder if the cost of living would be lower or if the cost of living of general items has exploded as well, even in these low cost areas. But let's go ahead and do this and sum up these. Ooh, that's a big number, 2410.47. So 2410.47. And then you could see it takes us 1 year to pay it off. Ooh, 1 year. All right, so that's going to be 2 years. Okay, so 2 years because we're adding that 1 year to our milestone, and then 22 plus 13 is 35K of debt. So 35K of debt, and then so 2 year payoff. Okay, and so now what are we going to focus on next? Student loans. So after 2 years, we just got to figure out what the balance of that student loan is. So let's go ahead back to this amortization calculator again. So this will be 4.5% at 10 years because student loans are 10 years, and I totally forgot about that a long time ago, but it's all right. So 10 years and 2 years. I'm sorry, 2 years. What's the balance? It's 25,000. Here we go. Okay, and so this is now zero, the auto loan, um, and then we just plug it in our calculator, right? Plug and play. So let's go ahead and do it again. So 30000. This one is 250. Okay, so the interest rate is 4.5 at 10 years, and the payment amount is 310.92. Okay. And what's our living expenses? So now it's everything except for the debt we're trying to pay off. So be this one and this one, and let's go ahead and sum these up. So 2099.55. That's still a lot. 2099.55. 2099.55. And then it takes us 1.1 years. Oh my gosh, to pay off this student loan. So now what we do is just say, okay, 3.1 years and 65K of debt. Wow, that's pretty crazy, right? So now this becomes zero. Last one is that mortgage. And now we got to figure out after 2 years what the balance of that mortgage is. So that's a $100,000 mortgage, right? After 30 years and 6%. Uh, this is going to be, was it 3 years? Yeah, 3.1 years. How many months is 3.1 years? So 3.1 times 12, that's 37 months. So let's look for 37 months here. So 37 months, and it's going to be, 95,000. Okay, 95,000. Ooh. All right, so now what we got to do is just plug and play in the calculator again. So 100,000, okay, at what's the interest rate? 6%, and the term is going to be 30 years, 30-year mortgage at 599.55. All right, so now it's 599.55. Ooh, I love that payment amount. It's so small. Love it. Just like I love small dogs. No, I'm kidding. I don't even have a small dog. All right, so now what we're just going to do is just go here, adjust the expenses. Again, everything except for the debt we're paying off goes there. So now we just put in 1,500. Ooh, 1,500. Okay, how long does it pay it off? Take to pay it off? 3.6 years. And that's the final mortgage. It's amazing. So 3.1 plus 3.6. If I recall my elementary school math, 3 plus 3 is 6. 3.1 plus 3, that'll be 6.7 years to pay off 165K of debt. So it's not as impressive as the other ones, but again, we live in a low cost area and we're assuming lower income, right? But if we're, whether we're in New York City or we live in Danville, Illinois, everything will kind of adjust based on the area and the cost of living. In fact, you know what's crazy? I remember I read an article somewhere about how $300,000 in San Francisco is poor. So, like, even if we had a really good income, just remember it's not about how much money you make, it's about how much you keep, right? And I need to make a video soon about how Americans in general would love to pay higher prices and lower interest rates, even though it doesn't serve them, because of their ego. Like, think about like if someone has a family of a budget for a $300,000 home and you show them the $100,000 area, it's going to offend their ego, even though it might be a nice area, right? It might actually be a nice area. So, all right, so let's go here, put this as zero. And as you can see, we have that real cash flow coming in, and this is going to be 2,500 and then 5,000. But we got no more debt because that's the whole point of Lost Sea Banking, pay off debt. Now we don't need to even use our line of credit anymore. All right. Well, this is Korean Atlanta Mentorship. So if you're interested in joining a group, go ahead and click the Google form link below. I do want to mention that before May 1st, it's best to join our group because the lifetime education for the foundations level of real estate education package, which we do sell, is actually going to run. Is they're actually changing the policy so that like it's not going to be lifetime anymore. It's only going to be 12-month access, unfortunately. Okay, so if you do want that lifetime access just for that base level of education to learn how to get into real estate, go ahead and make sure to click that Google form link below. Other than that, for all you night owls, have a great night, and we'll speak next time.